Okay, so I'm just going to put in the grid spacing for the mullions that we're going to make in a moment, and I've just realised that because I was showing you placement of grid lines manually using just the curtain grid tool. Looked at that last week. That I probably should show you how to get rid of them because that's the point I'm starting at as well. So the trick is just to select across the panel. If you, in fact, select all of your project, that'll obviously select the whole curtain wall and a bunch of other things as well. But you can always just use the filter and then check just the curtain wall grids. And that should just select the internal ones. There are grid lines technically at the end of the curtain walls, but it won't let you delete those. So here I'm just pressing delete on the keyboard to delete those internal grid lines, and that should have cleared all of them. And so now I want to add in an automatic grid spacing. Now I'm still going to add the mullions manually, so I'm just doing the grids with this automatic setting. So just by going to edit type, once you've selected the wall. Also, I also better show you that I have set the panel. So before I do that, so I'll just zoom in there and then pressing tab on the edge of that panel until it's highlighted. I can select just that, and it should be system panel glazed in properties, and then with edit type, you probably will see it'll be something like 37 initially, and so I've just set that to 0 to center the glass on the wall. And now I'm going to just make sure I select the entire curtain wall. So zooming out there, you can see it's got the dashed line around it, and then you can see over here it's curtain wall 6mm thick glazing. So I'm going to go to edit type and duplicate, and then I'll just call it maybe, even though it's not really true frameless glass, it's got a frameless sort of look, so I'm going to call it frameless. Sorry, frameless glass, should be fine. And then I'm just going to change the, now I always forget, is the vertical, it's funny, they do it the opposite to the way I think. So I'm pretty sure it is a horizontal grid pattern, measuring horizontally, which will put in vertical elements. But I'm just wondering, I could be wrong, in which case it's the vertical, so it's not difficult to just experiment and see which one it is. And so here I've set maximum spacing, and then I'm going to make it 1800. So we know it is close to that. That's what it's I think dimensioned on the plan, and I don't mind. It's for a concept drawing, so I wouldn't mind if it was a little bit smaller than that. And that's, I'm sure, what it'll do. So I'm just going to click OK, and okay, wrong one. Okay, so it's done the horizontal grid lines. When you say horizontal spacing, doesn't mean measure horizontally, it means horizontal grids. I suppose that's what it says. So it's, again, sorry, not the vertical mullions, but the vertical grid pattern. And so maximum spacing, again, is what I want, and then 1800. And I, of course, haven't duplicated, so I better set that back to none. And then duplicate first. And it was, again, frameless glass. So because I didn't undo, that's all, I've got to do this again. And so... and it's got, okay, it's remembered my name. Okay, so it's annoying sometimes when you undo, it undoes part of what you've done, but not everything. And so there we go, it's actually still got my horizontal spacing, so I'll set that back to none, and then vertical grid pattern to maximum spacing 1800. There we go. So that's what I wanted. And so you can see we've just got the grid lines ready to place the mullions on. And again, that can be done in the type properties. But before I go to do that, I'm just going to show you one little thing. If I change this back to curtain wall 6mm thick glazing, I should get an error, and there we are. So you can see it's giving me this message telling me that it has to delete grid lines that it's created.
So again, hopefully that reinforces the idea that it's making extra objects. As you add more complexity to the curtain wall, it's got those sub-elements which do work independently as separate objects. So that's why it can be tricky sometimes when you're trying to simplify or change the curtain walls into other kinds. It'll often give you errors, or I've seen it crash and do all sorts of strange things. So that's why I'm, starting with what might seem like a very simple setup. Starting with just plain glass, gradually building up the layout or the spacing with the grids, and then only once that's fairly well worked out would I go and put in the mullions, and then start changing some of the panels to doors and the other things they need to be. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to save this file. That's all right. And go now to make a new file, new family, for my mullion. Okay, so going to new family, and then it should take you to the templates folder. And so there you can see a couple of templates just for curtain walls, but these are for panels. We're not making panels, we're making a mullion. And so to make mullions, you actually use the profile mullion template, metric profile mullion. Okay, so just double clicking on that. And you can see it's got some nice things set up that help you to work out your mullions. All right, so firstly it tells you which is the interior, which is the exterior side, which is really helpful. Centre of the mullion. And then this little note. That really could be anywhere. It's not really relating to the location of any of these things. It's just to remind you that they're trimmed along this plane. Okay, so that means I'll just draw something. Okay, so if I've got, say, a rectangular shape, like this, it doesn't matter where the glass is in relation to the centre line. The glass could be 100 mil forward or 100 mil back. It's always going to be cut at the two sides here of the rectangle, because the rectangle cuts the reference planes there. So if I was to have a different shape, let's make that slightly different. Okay, so with this shape, if it's like that, then the glass is going to be cut here and here again. But if it was forward or down, by forward I mean closer to the outside, then it's going to be cut here and here. Okay, so, and that's important. So the glass could be sitting forward of it, out here, but it's going to be cut at this line. And so that's how you control where the glass is cut precisely, just by wherever those lines intersect this plane. Okay, and so that means we can, just switching quickly back. Oh no, I can't show you on this one, I have to go switch to the other computer. But it basically means we can have a profile. Go back into the, got a few things open here. So I should close this file. Didn't realize how many views I had. Okay, so can't do too many more. There we go, nearly there. Okay, so back into this one. And so we can have a profile that's going to be wider at the back than at the front, and so the glass can be joining with a fairly narrow gap, and then the profile or the mullion widens out behind that. And so to draw it, it's fairly simple, just using the line tool on the Create tab.
you need to have a line that's 100 mil above the center line, center front back. So I'm just going to draw a line up here, and then make sure I can select it, and then set that dimension to 100. And then, again, with the line tool, you might have noticed it didn't give me the temporary dimensions straight away, and that's because I've got chain turned on. So I'm going to turn that off, and then I'm going to draw a line either side. And so I just want this to be 10 mil either side. So as I draw them, you can see now, because I've turned chain off, it actually makes it easier sometimes, because you get the temporary dimensions, and it's much easier to modify things on the fly.
Did you say you took chain off?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and so then using the centre line as a guide, just going to draw a line across it, and then move it up. I should have just drawn it above, but anyhow, this will work. So I'm going to use the move tool, and it's just to remind you about some of these tools if you haven't used them for a little while. I've clicked the base point, and now I'm going to move in the direction that I want it to go, and then type in my distance, which is just going to be 5 mil. And now I want to draw some lines for the part that goes through the glass. So again, I'll show you some other ways. So I'll use pick lines, and using offset there, I'm just going to set that to 5. And then I'm going to pick either side of my center line, and that's giving me actually all the lines except for one, so I just need to have one more for the front, and I'm just going to make that 20 mil. And so then picking below that center line. Right, so I'll dimension all of this afterwards, and there are 1,000 ways you could make this. I'm just trying to show you a few different ways. And so I'm going to use split to break the second bottom of those horizontal lines, just anywhere towards the middle. And now using trim, I can finish it all off. So just going around, joining the lines together to make a closed shape. Okay, so that's the finished shape, and like I was saying, I'll dimension that now just in case you missed any of that. And so I think you can all work out that it's centered, so I'm not going to dimension that. I'm going to change the scale though to 1 to 5, so it's easier to read. And is that going to be small enough? Yep, that should be okay. And then again, I'll just dimension the main things. So the overall set out there from the glass is 100 actually, but let me just think for 1 second. It's 25 mil at the moment. I'll probably change it to 20, but yeah, we've only got 5 there, so I wasn't thinking. So that's 5 mil too low. So I'm going to just select it with the window, and again, you can use move. Your base point, just move that 5 mil. So if you're not comfortable doing all of those things, then it's worth just spending some time practicing with the main drawing tools. That's all just standard 2D drafting, and anyone who uses AutoCAD can easily do all of those things without thinking about it, and it's something you should be able to do in Revit too. So then using the, again, just align dimensions, I'll finish off those. And so then coming again forward there. I haven't probably mentioned this in the most sensible way, but I'll just make that neater. Have this at least. Yeah, that's better. And okay, get that out. So let's see, what else do you need? I don't think you really need any more. Oh, at the front. Okay, so if you're going to be pausing the video, where's that? A good one. And okay, so that's all I need for my mullion. Okay, so I'm going to save that as a family into my library, or one of them. Here we are, so it's here. And so I'm going to call it Bachi Mullion profile.
No, that's a good point. This is just a profile. So mullions are a bit unusual in that way. They're not like a lot of other families, which are full 3D families from the beginning. Yeah. And so yeah, many of them are just 2D, but they mostly have that profile word in the template or somewhere to tell you that you're just drawing 2D.
And so you can also see when you are starting those kinds of families, you'll only have 2D drawing tools on the Create tab. So yeah, it's really good in that way. No, this is still 2D until, so you've actually got to use a special kind of family in the project. But yeah, it's good to be thinking about those things because, yeah, it's not like a normal family. So I'm going to load into project and get the Barbachi. Okay, so notice how, unlike a lot of other families, it doesn't come up straight away on the cursor. You need to know how to set it up in your curtain wall. Right, so I'm just going to go to a 3D view again, and so I've already got my grid lines there, which is good. And now going to the mullion tool, you can see it's got some corner mullion chosen. I want to start with a different one, so I'm going to go to just the 50 by 150 mil rectangular, edit type, and then duplicate. Okay, so I'm going to call this now Bachi Mullion. Notice how I didn't call it Mullion Profile. And so this is the part, if it's not obvious to you how important the difference between system families and loadable families is, don't worry too much about this. It'll become more obvious as you use the program more. But these are kind of a sneaky one. They're really a system family. They're not labelled as a system family up there. And the only reason I'm pointing that out is because with these sorts of families, you don't use the family you make directly. You stick them into one of these. So the profile, we get to it in here. So here we go, profile. And it's got system mullion profile to begin with. You don't even see that come up until you give it your own name. But you can see now that's telling us it's been using this, you know, rectangular predefined thing that they've got. We don't want that. I want the Bachi profile. So that's the one I've made. And so that's how you get those families to work in your project. It's via these special system families. And so that's all I've got to do. I'm just going to click OK. And right away, I can choose my glass, and you can see it's exactly where I want it to go. And so once you understand those things, curtain walls are really easy to work with. And you know, we've got these guys at Ultimo who are being told they're doing a technical drafting course, but because they're pretty good at the technical stuff, and I don't know, everyone was saying they had learning issues, but they're actually doing really well and doing some great designs because they're totally on top of this curtain wall tool, and they're doing these massive facades with just interesting patterns because they're really comfortable doing their own grids and then their own nice sort of modern looking mullions. And so now I can just go ahead and do the same thing, not as interesting as any of theirs. I'll show you some of the stuff they're doing, it's really good. But now I'll just pick up the other mullions, and you could predefine them in the wall type. So I'll show you that way. I've just cancelled what I was doing. I'm just going to select that curtain wall. It's called frameless glass, but that's okay. I'll leave it with that name. And then I'm going to put in a vertical mullion. Now I'll start by, I'll leave border type actually, I'm just going to put interior type. And there you can see the Bachi mullion. But I could be stuck with two mullions now. I'm just going to check that. I'm actually not sure. So let's have a look. pretty good.
Okay, so it's pretty clever in that way. It's realised I had a mullion there already, and it didn't put one on the grids where I'd already placed one. So for once,
The curtain wall, the automatic stuff, has done some good thinking for me.
don't rely on it to always be that predictable. It can do some really strange things when you start putting a lot of settings in there. Just trust me on that. But it's done a pretty good job there. So you can see now that my other walls don't have any of those grids or mullions, and that's simply because they're my old type. So if you remember, I made a new curtain wall type. In the list here, it's still the default one. So you can see there I've got frameless glass though, and I can just set it to that, and Bob's your uncle, we've got everything done. And so I'm going to just use a trick to select all of the curtain walls that aren't this type. I'm going to select one of them, right click, select all instances, in entire project, and quickly change them to frameless glass. Okay, so that's done the bulk of those walls. One little thing before I finish the video, this, if you're wondering, is going to be a door all the way across. So if it's getting in your way, just delete it. I've just put it there to have something at the end until we put the door there. But you're not going to need that wall at all. And you could, if you want to as well, so just put mullions at the ends where they're not corners. So these ones, it's fine to add mullions at the ends, and you can see they just attach like it's a grid, but don't put them at the corners like these, and they won't work there. We'll do a different one for that. Okay, so unless you've got any other questions about curtain walls, I'll just finish the video there. So, yeah, that's good. And then, so one last thing. We're going to do another curtain wall for the hatch, or the popped up area there, the, whatever those windows are called. That'll be another curtain wall.